Hey, good morning, guys. It's about 7:40. Headed to work and had to pull over to tell you guys this. I'm just outside of Graceville, Alabama this morning. Headed over to Crawford Broadcasting, WYDE, WXJC, and WDJC. Little shameless plug there. And I saw this car sitting on the side of the road, and this guy standing beside it, so I kind of ease over, fixing to stop and help him, and realized that he doesn't need my help. He's actually just taking a leak. Right there on the side of Highway 78, he's taking a leak. The guy had to pee. I mean, okay. I wasn't going to stop and offer any help with that. I figured he had it under control. But I realized what had happened. I'm sure the guy didn't just set out and say, hey, I'm going to go pee on the side of the road today. But it had built up inside him until he had to do what he had to do. He, I'm sure, was, not worried about the shame at this point. He had to pee. I think a lot of times in our life, we get the same way, whether it's in our spiritual walk, whether it's in our business or relationships, whatever. Sometimes God tells us to do something, or we have a goal and we know what we need to do, but we're afraid. We're afraid of exposure. This guy had suffered some exposure. We're afraid of being shamed out. We're afraid of what other people will think. And yet it just builds up, and it builds up inside of us. And this guy knew what he had to do. He stopped and he just unzipped his fly right there on the side of the road. His level of shame was exceeded by his level of desperation. Think about that for a minute. He didn't care what people thought of him. He knew what he had to do. He had a calling. Well, it was nature calling, but still, he had a calling inside of him, and he had to get it out. He had to do something. How many times in our lives do we just quench whatever it is that we're called to do because we're afraid of what other people will think? Now, I'm not saying that we all need to go pee on the side of the road, but what I am saying is that when God tells us to do something, or we have a goal, when we have motivation, when we have true hunger inside of us to do something, it doesn't matter who's watching. It doesn't matter the exposure. It doesn't matter the shame. We've got to do what we've got to do. So this morning, I want to encourage you to set a goal and to set not only just a little bit of motivation standard, but you got to be hungry. You got to have yourself to the point where your level of desperation, your level of motivation exceeds your level of shame and pride to go get what you want and to do what you got to do. Now, go do it. Not pee on the side of the road, but go do what you've got to do. Go do what you've been called to do this morning. Boom.